Welcome to First Impressions. How y'all doing? I'm Spencer. Today we're talking about Underberg and Unintended Consequences.
I'm Will.
Belinda. Thank you for the skirt.
And that's Kevin.
And that's Kevin, the one who's laughing and can't speak.
Don't speak.
I know just what you're thinking. So, what is this? How's it go? Don't tell because it hurts.
No.
So what are we drinking today?
We are making a, what's it called? A swizzle.
Swizzle.
It is called a something swizzle.
A Bermuda rum swizzle, because I've been thinking a lot about Underberg and
Whoa, underwear? Just kidding.
underwear. Yes. No.
Who
So
doesn't?
Underberg, I don't know if you've ever seen these in the mixer aisle at the grocery store. Some people have found them like in like the heartburn area at Walgreens. They are classified as like a digestif, and they're supposed to help with digestion sort of thing. So we noticed them. I don't know, you and I were out, Kevin, and saw them somewhere at a bar, and we were like, what are those tiny bottles? And they said, oh, it's Underberg. And I think they just tore off the top and handed us each one, and we
they're really
shot it.
Adorable. Like
Right?
if you want to pretend you're a giant.
Yeah.
Or
Sometimes you can
whatever.
find these little boxes of 3 at the store. Like I got this at a specialty food store, like an import store in Draper. But yeah, you can find them lots of places.
You can get them at most like mixer stores. I know the Cottonwood Heights liquor store in Utah has a mixer store nearby, and they have them.
Oh, they do?
Is that where you got yours?
No, I went down to Pirate O's.
Oh, Pirate O's. Yeah,
Some
that's
weird
what I was
pirate,
talking about.
or not pirate, some Trader Joe's from an alternate reality.
I was going to
That
say
is
they have
true.
some good booty there.
That's what it feels like.
That's true.
I know
That's
it's
funny.
one of those places you don't know if it's a strip club or if it's a grocery store, but you just go with it.
That's true. It's like
Yeah.
a shack on the side of the road with like a
Right.
dirt driveway.
It is the parking
lot.
parking lot's all
You're
dirt.
like, I don't see any
It comes up
poles.
on you suddenly. It's in a weird place. It's interesting.
right by the railroad tracks. Yeah,
Yeah.
For real, right by the railroad tracks.
yeah.
It's
No,
great.
it's a fun store. It
You
really
think
is,
it was fun? Well, it's great.
Yeah, they've got not to turn this into an ad for Pirate O's, but they've got stuff from all over the world, like
Oh yeah.
just random stuff.
Candy, but also all kinds of food stuff and a huge selection of bottled sodas.
Yeah.
and
Like
Just
gourmet food items and
cheese,
little things.
like, it's
Local
weird.
bread. Yeah.
they make sandwiches there, I think, too. It's kind of
Yeah,
random.
coffee.
Just don't go to
stuff like that.
the chilled food meat area. It smells weird.
That's where
For
the
real.
sodas are, though.
Also, the liverwurst. Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Liverwurst
good
is
point.
there.
Good
Yeah.
point.
So, no, I saw like a local bartender here. He had a picture of a cocktail earlier this week of this beautiful, like big bulbous glass full of crushed ice and these pineapple leaf, garnishes and everything. And this cute little darling bottle of Bundaberg overturned in the crushed ice. And I was like, oh, that looks so fun. So I've been on the lookout for a sort of tropical cocktail that utilizes Bundaberg. I didn't find a lot. It's most fun ones are bartender,
But
secrets.
really, because it's herbal and kind of almost Amaro or Amaro, however you say
Yeah,
it forward.
bitter.
You can kind of substitute it for an Amaro in a cocktail or
Or
potentially bitters
a bitter.
or something like that. So any
I'm
if you
surprised.
find something you want to try it, you can just substitute it, like
Right.
Rhonda said.
I'm
Yeah.
surprised I
Or-
didn't have to show ID. It's like 40% alcohol.
I
No,
know.
it's
It's like a half ounce. And
I read about that. It's classified under food and drinks, oil, herbs, and spices in the
Yeah.
United States by the FDA. So
lucky
Ah,
us.
okay.
no
so
need
that
for a
makes-
liquor license. It's kind of like
Kids are buying
almond
bottles of
extract
Underberg.
or whatever.
I don't think this is something teens, binge on.
It is
so
44% alcohol by volume, so it's like almost 90 proof. 88
That's true.
proof is like if you weren't a drinker, you'd have to drink several of them.
I mean,
To
but
feel
you
a
can
buzz,
buy 3
but-
packs of them apparently. So why not?
it's true. It's an
Yeah.
ounce and a half of liquor that you could be drinking, right?
I have not
Yeah.
tasted my Underberg yet, so I don't even know what it tastes like.
Okay. Well,
You can
you
take
can
a little sip out of the
lick
bottle
at the end.
when you're ready to add it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very herbal. So let me tell you, can I tell you just a little bit more about
Tell us
Underberg?
about Underberg.
Absolutely.
It was created and started to be produced in Germany in 1846. So it's been around for a minute, from 1839 to about 1849, because of World War II and lack of resources and whatnot. They did shut down for about a decade there. But other than that, they've been around since 1846. And like I said, it's classified in the US as kind of an herb or an oil, kind of in that same realm. So you can buy it outside of the liquor store, even in Utah. And yeah, that's really about all there is to say, other than to say it contains herbs, aromatic herbs from 43 different countries.
And they age it in like an oak cask, like a Slovenian oak cask or something wild like that. I
Yeah.
remember, yeah.
And it is said to have digestion stimulating properties, relaxation, and nerve calming substances, and naturally occurring vitamin B1 as a matter
Oh,
of fact.
nice.
So there you
Getting
go.
your vitamins
So
there.
this is our health conscious.
So you
episode.
can get vitamin B without having to go into a weird house up some narrow
That's
stairs
true. And
get a
shoot it
shot
up
in
by
your ass.
yourself.
Ah,
That
That
you
is
do on
true.
your own. Yeah.
if you don't get the reference, I forget the
Watch-
episode, but just
listen
listen
to
to
all
all
our
our
episodes.
episodes.
Yeah, it's a good
Fantastic
one, yeah.
story.
All right, let's stir this up. So it calls for 2 different kinds of rum. So you could do 2 kinds of rum or just whatever rum you have on hand. 2 ounces. So 1 ounce of, maybe something dark, 1 ounce of something light, whatever you like.
What are you using, Belinda?
I used
Ooh, Spencer,
so
you don't
I'm-
like that.
I mean, I took a swig right from the bottle, so
I mean, a swig is probably overshooting.
I am yeah.
It's herbal. It's
I'm
herbal.
appreciating the complex flavors here.
I'm making me a double. So I did 1 ounce of plantation pineapple and 1 ounce of plantation 5-year. It's the one in the cute, strung up
Yeah, with the
bottle
little-
with the
yeah.
rope stuff, and then 2 ounces of the Brigham 36 that we used for the last rum episode. And then I did a 1/2 ounce of grenadine. Kevin and I make our own grenadine. It's so easy and it's much more delicious than anything you could ever buy at a grocery store. It's just pomegranate syrup, equal amounts pomegranate juice and water, and you
No,
can
no
add
water, sugar.
sugar. Sorry, you're right. Thank you. And then we like to add like some spices and things. Since we heard about that from a friend, we put a cinnamon stick in, or a clove, or orange flower water.
So on the batch I made today, I did orange flower, blossom water, whatever it's called, some peppercorns and some cloves. It's
Ooh,
really
I like
good.
that. Yeah. So any
Spicy.
fun spices that you think sound good,
It's
just
not
boil it
overly
up.
spicy.
No,
little,
just
yeah.
lend some complexity to it, instead of just pink syrup from the store. And then 2 ounces each of pineapple juice and orange juice. And we are going to mix that up. You can shake it. I thought it was a shake and drink. Kevin said it's a stir drink on the recipe. So we are going to stir the heck out of this. And see how this tastes.
I did not
So
have
don't-
orange or pineapple juice, so I just went with a strawberry peach. So hopefully this.
Where did you
added-
get strawberry peach? It sounds
That
so
sounds
good.
that sounds Trader Joe's like as
It
I
well.
had I had brunch earlier, and a friend brought some over, so I just had that left over.
So-
But I did add some lime to kind of
I like that
add
idea.
some acidity to it.
So I'm stirring I went ahead and pre-measured my stuff. So I'm
Me
already
too.
stirring. But I went ahead and crushed up some ice and put it in a glass in advance, pre-garnished everything. But then I put additional bigger ice in my mixing glass so that it breaks down, it chills while not breaking down so quickly. And then I'll strain out this ice and pour it over the crushed ice when I'm done. The beautiful thing about these little bottles too is, you may think I'm joking, but they make a beautiful garnish for your drink. And I think both Belinda and I will probably show you that. Go ahead and strain mine off.
So if you don't have crushed ice and you're just, serving it in a coupe or something other way, you can just incorporate it into your stirred ingredients. But I like to see it kind of twist down into the drink because I'm pulling it out.
So I went ahead. Oops.
Ooh.
Here, let me move my straw so it's not so problematic. Well, let me fix that. I went ahead and just dumped the Underberg in and left the bottle right on top there.
Oh.
So you got the Underberg bottle, and I got some cherries and a pineapple leaf
Wow.
garnish.
That is cool.
It's delicious. And I do like, it's a very sweet drink. Obviously, rum is pretty sweet. I use plantation pineapple rum as well.
Nice.
And I used an Appleton Estate Jamaican rum. That's very nice.
I used the Wren Nephew Overproof, so I'm having just one drink.
Wow.
That's famous last words right
Oh
there.
my god.
We'll see.
That rum fucks you up though.
How big is the drink though, Spencer?
I mean, it's not the size that matters, Will. It's how you drink it.
That's a like what 3-to-1 alcohol to juice proportion.
Wow. It's good though.
Okay, let me get my drink.
Yeah, I really like the herbal.
It tastes like
notes
something that should be
in something sweet.
tastes like something that should be served in a hollowed out pineapple.
Oh,
It would be delicious.
Oh.
Oh my god. No, Belinda.
Shut the fuck up. Did you know that,
No.
Spencer?
Oh, I did not know that.
what just happened?
Oh my
What?
god.
That was unreal.
For those listening, just listening, Belinda whips out a fucking
What the
pineapple.
fuck is that? A living bird? What is that?
What? She made a bird out of the pineapple.
That is so awesome.
This is not real. This
Oh
is not
my
happening.
But that head of that bird looks
Wow.
scarily real.
Did you do
Yeah.
that?
About it, yeah.
What?
I did. I
No.
was like,
happened?
oh, I need a little garnish, I think.
A
And
little
then
garnish?
A little garnish. And so I'm looking around online and then I see this little bird and I'm like, oh my God, that doesn't look difficult. Well, it was difficult. So
Wow.
And my knives are
You
not as
pulled
sharp
it
as I
off.
thought. Yeah.
That was
Okay,
amazing.
I did not plan that.
That was unreal.
Holy
yeah.
shit.
So
That
is
is the best.
that pineapple that's the yellow part?
Yeah. It's so you cut off like the top, like, couple, like inch and a half of the pineapple.
That's
and then
amazing.
you cut it down and kind of shape it into like a head. And then you make a beak out of a carrot.
That
Put
is.
some cloves in
All
for
right.
the eyes.
Hold that up.
This
I got to
is-
screenshot that
we
shit.
will
we all
include
need to
this
make
in the show
surprise
notes, and Belinda's going to
Everyone
take
go.
awesome pictures, hopefully. Wow.
That was
unreal.
amazing. How did
It's
he?
incredible.
call us,
I feel
Spencer?
like
And how did he? What the? What?
That was wild. I was like, wait, what the fuck was this?
I
planned?
know.
And I need to get like a selfie here. Holy hell.
That's
It took me a lot.
amazing.
My
It's really-
hands were burning, like because pineapple's got like enzymes, it's kind of acidic and stuff. My fingers were just on fire. It's like when you clean out a pumpkin and your hands are burning up.
And that's not a
That's what it was.
euphemism. Let's
When
clean
you
out the
clean
pumpkin,
out
baby.
a pumpkin. Oh, jeez.
There's
Oh,
probably some
Spencer,
herb-
whatever you sent me the yesterday or today was terrifying. And
Oh, the watermelon thing. Yeah, yeah. Obviously, you all don't know what I'm talking about, but maybe we'll include that as well. That is incredible, Belinda.
That's
Seriously.
unreal. Yeah.
Belinda
you win.
wins.
You win the day.
Wonder wins that I am.
Wow.
You know who didn't win?
Who?
didn't win.
Thank God. Former officer Showman.
Oh man. I didn't watch the trial. I couldn't
Yeah.
handle it
Wow.
emotionally. But I knew when the verdict was going to be read. So I was picking up my kids, I think. I was about to pick them up. And I was listening ahead of time. They kind of held out to, I think it was 5 Eastern, roughly. The judge starts reading. I'm like, oh, fuck, here we go. About to turn into school.
Right.
And I hear the first count, guilty. And then I'm like,
Really?
what? Guilty. I'm like, what? Guilty. I'm like, yes. It's hard to express. And it's not so much the glee of his demise, but feeling happy that, hey, the system's actually recognizing, I think, and working in a way that keeps people accountable. That felt great. I told my son after, because we always talk in the car, like, hey,
Sure.
that police officer who killed George Floyd, he got convicted. They found him guilty. He's like, oh man, that's awesome. I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. And I just started crying.
Yeah.
I hadn't watched the trial, hadn't, followed everything, all the minutiae of it, but it was just a really emotional, powerful moment for us. So I was happy to see that.
I think it kind of points to like if I'm not mistaken, the AG in Minnesota's Keith Ellison, right? Who's a really good progressive, and it goes to show that, like, if you elect people who actually stand up for the values that you care for, stuff like this will happen. Like, I doubt if it was some other crony, like, conservative AG in there, I doubt that this would have happened. Like,
and at the beginning,
it was surprising to me, honestly. I think we were all really scared that it wouldn't go the way that it did, and holy fuck, the country would have erupted. It would have been bad.
I think the police and the attorney general knew that would happen, and that's why they took this case so seriously. I don't think they're taking every case so seriously, sadly.
Sure.
And I've heard people say, yes, they occasionally sacrifice one bad cop to the cause, right, to make it seem like they're doing something to appease the masses.
But
let's see what happens. I'm just they don't. No.
And most of the high-profile ones have not gone this way. To be honest. And you could argue, well, they're like, well, we have to now because this one's turned into such a firestorm. Right. But the reality is we have to start somewhere, right? Things don't change overnight. So take it as a positive that I'm not sure I believe the system worked so much as people force the system to work.
Exactly.
The system can work to go the other way too. Like, the system can be gamed, I guess.
That's what I'm saying about, like, Keith Ellison being in that position that he's in.
Yeah.
Like, this is exactly why you need to participate in electoral politics. Like, if the people of Minnesota, if Keith Ellison wouldn't have been such a powerhouse there, then, like I said, I doubt this would have happened. And so it's kind of like what you're saying, Kevin. Like, the system only works when good people are in there to make it work.
Yeah.
And in this case, it did work because he was obviously guilty, and the stupid shit that the defense was using, like, oh my God, just the utter smearing of George Floyd is just despicable.
But I mean, you've never ever, how many times have you ever seen a police chief or other police testify against a rotten cop, right?
That was wild.
I think this was a big deal, and they knew it was a big deal, and they spoke up. Thankfully, this time, I'm just really concerned. I mean, you've seen that there have been how many shootings since the trial started?
Since the trial started, like it was 75 several days ago.
Yeah,
so
it's ridiculous. It's just unreal, and people just need to not think this is a huge win. We got to just keep moving, keep talking, keep.
To be clear, that's not just shootings. That's shootings of civilians by the police.
Like, no, deadly shootings, even, like, not just shootings. It's just killing people. Yeah. So, like this, what was her name? Ma'Khia Bryant. Ma'Khia Bryant, saying, oh, she had a knife, here we've got Kyle Rittenhouse with a fucking AK-47 or whatnot. Like, I don't know what fucking, like, gun. And he can be captured peacefully and, like, just taken to McDonald's or whatever on the way to the jail. Like,
not even captured in the heat of the moment. They're like, oh, well, we'll go track him down later. Well, motherfuckers, why can't you do that all the time?
No.
Number one. And number two, when a young girl calls 911 to say, I'm being threatened, I'm worried for my, personal security, blah, 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 please come over. Guess what? Maybe send more than one police officer, because so often I see these cases where it's like someone shoots someone and then everyone shows up, and then, stories are told, or whatever the case may be. But like, maybe like not have it just be one person who is scared for his life. And guess what? I listened to, I can't remember his name now. He was a commentator, but he served 50 years in law enforcement, a Black man. And he does a lot of, I think he's a professor now of law enforcement at a prestigious university. I can't remember which one, but he was on CNN or one of those channels. And he flat out said, if you're afraid to do your job, and you're afraid to do your job in the way that allows you to be a peace officer first and foremost, then get the fuck off the force.
Right.
Get the fuck off the force. And it's true. Like, why are we training police officers who were very first and foremost called peace officers, right?
Yeah.
Officers of the peace. Like, why is the majority of our training about how to kill people and how to save your own skin? Why not how to protect people? Why not how to save people from difficult situations, whether they be medical situations, whether they be mental situations, whether they be intensity situations, right? Where there's some back and forth between spouses or back and forth between individuals. Like what we do is we train them to use tanks. We train them to use
not only that, but there was that video this week of like a training session, and the fucking like person doing the training session is telling the police officers how great sex is after you murder somebody. Right. Did you guys see that?
What the hell? Yeah. No. What the hell?
He's like, you shouldn't feel bad when you kill someone. Like, you shouldn't, like, you should feel good about yourself. You should, and this is like one of the foremost, like LAPD, like all the big departments hired this guy to come in and teach their killers how to feel better about themselves and not have mental breakdowns after they kill people. Yeah. That's literally what his training is. Like, why you should feel comfortable killing people.
To me, like there was this video going around on Twitter a couple days ago. Of course, it's on Twitter because I saw it. But the video was of this woman getting arrested on the side of the road, and there's like 3 cops on her, and one of the cops starts lifting her up off the ground. Like her hands are handcuffed behind her back, so like she's trying to stand up because you can't, like if someone's lifted up your arms, you have to stand up, right?
Yeah.
And he immediately throws her to the ground and starts like beating her on the face, like just smashing her face in. And then the other cops, they actually step in and were like, no, don't do that. No. Like, but that's all they did. And then like
they didn't physically stop him. They just said no.
Well, they physically stopped him by like shoving him away.
I mean, that's good. That's good.
No. So this is my point is, okay, what a great first step. You have
step one out of many.
Intercede on a violent act. Now the next step is for that cop to immediately be arrested and charged with assault.
That's his partner, if that's what it takes.
That's where we need to get to in this policing system. And I would like to see a completely different system than the one that exists. But what I would imagine a better like policy of enforcing law is to make sure that the so-called peace officers are also following the law, where if they're assaulting people, their partners are there to arrest their asses. Like,
really, shouldn't they be held to a higher standard even?
That's all it is. But like, that's really all it is. Like if when I'm talking to conservatives about this, that's all I'm saying is like, we need to have higher standards, because it's absolutely embarrassing when you have cops going out there beating the shit out of people and not getting punished for it. Like, it's embarrassing to our society. We shouldn't like glorify these people that are just above the law because they have badges.
We need the police to be embarrassed first and foremost.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm getting at.
Maybe BYU needs to inform the police on how to teach their people to snitch on each other.
Oh, snap.
There you go.
The honor code office
honor
for BYU should be the new like standard for police training. Like, if your partner does shit, you need to tell on him, even if it's really not that bad. Like,
yeah. Yeah, well, the BYU Police Department has its problems too. So
Oh, many.
Right. Oh, tons of problems. It's not the BYU police though. Are snitching. It's the students.
No, the
They're
BYU
snitching on each other.
No,
Well,
they
no,
are.
it is-
The
it is
BYU
the
police
BYU.
they're snitching on the
That's
students
true.
to the Provo police.
That's
Yeah.
true. But I'm
By the
saying
way,
like teaching
Provo
the
kills love.
I love it.
So,
There you
Teaching
go.
the students to like snitch on each other. Like, you know what I mean?
Snitches
Like
get
turning each
stitches
other.
and end up in ditches. Even my kids know that.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
So
already feeling this.
I was hopeful that we didn't just focus on this today because
We won't.
fuck Derek Chauvin. He's a murderer and he is going to get his due. I hope someday he makes it to general population. I'll
Right?
just leave
Amen.
it at that.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to
Um,
say general conference.
That too, because
That's
that's
torture, too.
torture in and of itself.
It's just
I hope he
horrible.
has to listen to general conference in the general population.
Yeah.
Has to go to the Mormon sessions in the prison.
I know.
Jesus Christ. But
Jesus Christ.
I don't want to. I mean, if we have more to say about this, I'm not trying to stop the conversation. But I also know we've talked a lot about the trial, and we've talked a lot about guns and
Police
a lot
violence.
of those things.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, you remember our conversation last week, right? Aliens, UFOs.
We got some feedback.
CE5.
Did we?
I got some. I
feedback.
got some good feedback. Somebody had said that we went off the deep end, and my only response to that is that's only the shallow end, baby.
Oh, that's dipping your toe in right
Oh,
there. Yeah.
That's just tip of the iceberg.
Tell us more, Will.
Oh, maybe we'll save an episode.
We'll save it for part 2.
What I will say as a precursor to part 2 is that is exactly what the government wants you to think. But I'll just leave it at that. I'll just leave it right there. Fucking crazy ass people talking about aliens.
No. Okay, here's I've had people tell me like why do you care so much about like this like conspiracy stuff? It's fun.
It's entertaining for sure.
It's entertaining, but not only that, but I think it's important to try to think of things that are just like, I don't know, batshit crazy. I think it's important to expand your mind and not like contain your brain in what you think should be what reality is. Like, I think you should challenge, like, just how like you challenge like your assumptions on like certain topics. Do the same thing with like, who knows, maybe alien lizards really do control our government and we're all just oblivious to it.
What do you
I'm
mean
not
maybe? I
saying
thought
that's
that was the case.
I'm just saying it's
You
fun to
saw
think about.
Trump, right?
It could be.
It's the only thing that explains that the last 4
Right?
years, man.
Is it lizard or is it rat people? I don't know.
It's reptilian, and there's a whole thing about it.
Yeah.
That one's
Yeah,
one's-
we won't go too deep in that because we want to save that for another episode because we want to keep people on edge for when we're going to go off the deep end again.
Really
But
deep.
we have had requests and would like to honor those requests for us.
Are
to
we
talk a
little the
little bit
striptease
about-
show?
Yeah.
The
So
OnlyFans?
They want to
shit?
see my third tattoo.
Oh. Oh.
This is the preview for the OnlyFans. 1, 2. Well, this is 1. This is 2.
And
The third one.
3.
I thought that was
No.
I thought that was just our special friendship tattoo. What?
Oh, we should get
Oh.
matching tramp stamps, you guys.
That would be amazing, actually. I would be down.
Or-
I need
totally
to find a way
or
to fit it
A
in.
ring tattoo.
I'm not even
Um,
kidding.
A ring
Right?
tattoo for every 20 shows? 50
Around the
shows?
butthole?
I don't know.
Oh,
I was thinking-
Oh,
I was thinking elsewhere, but that would work. And then eventually it becomes a target as it
It's
expands.
target, yes.
Your cheeks are just this giant target. Yeah.
I'm too
You're
much
like-
of a baby to get tattoos on my arms. Holy,
I
can't
know,
do,
I
like,
know.
anywhere else.
I
The
was
most
thinking
painful
penis,
place
but
I've gotten
yeah.
a tattoo is the arm ditch, as my tattoo artist calls
Oh.
it, right?
Yeah.
Right where you're flexed, right
I didn't
there.
get that close, but I mean, I
fucking
was
hurts.
close-ish, and
It's worse than the wrist.
Oh,
it's amazing how from like literally millimeter to millimeter, you can be like, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine. And then they hit some sort of nerve and you're like, motherfucker, what are you doing to me? Like,
So how did we each meet each other? I mean, I can go
that,
first.
That was the request, right?
Yeah, that was one request.
I don't think I said it out loud.
If you've been listening for some time, you're probably wondering and even in the description of the show, it's 4 unlikely friends. And really, it is unlikely.
Yes.
We each have our stories and perspectives. I'm curious to hear all of your perspectives of how you met me, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And we didn't plan this ahead of time, just to be clear, but I'll start with Kevin. Well, the spotlight is on Kevin. How did we each meet Kevin? For me, and I guess, no, is this tied to Belinda somewhat?
I think I'm the linking factor between
maybe so,
Spencer and
but
Kevin.
how
We
I
knew
met
of
Belinda
each
is
other.
different than how I met Kevin, for sure. So I met Kevin, actually, the first time I met Kevin, he came to my house. And I am a part of an online group of like-minded individuals. And I planned an event. And I was like, I'm gonna do a party. It's not QAnon. It's not QAnon.
Oh my God.
Fancy as fuck dinner.
Ass Eaters Anonymous.
Oh.
Just kidding. But Will's like,
AEA.
AEA.
So,
He's like, I wasn't invited.
I'm feeling it too. And Belinda's bird is hilarious. Oh
It's
my God.
killing me,
It's
right?
so fucking amazing.
It's unreal.
Okay, so how did I meet Kevin? So I had this dinner at my house and invited, I don't know, was it 16 people or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. And Kevin shows up and you guys brought like, I had everyone bring something. I cooked like ribs and I think salmon. I love cooking. I love entertaining. Tons of wine, whatever. And I had everyone bring something. Kevin and Belinda roll up together with like some bomb ass dessert. I remember a cake stand with a glass cover. Is that correct?
There was no glass cover, but it was this white cake stand with a beautiful chocolate cake,
That's what it
multi-tiered
is.
with
I'm
whipped
like,
cream
what the
and
fuck?
berries everywhere.
This is like next
was
level. I'm
beautiful.
thinking
It was
this is
really
next
good.
level. Anyhow, get talking with Kevin. And we just hit it off. Absolutely hit it off from the first time we met. And I'm smiling because I remember exactly what I said to him or what we said to each other. I don't remember who said it, but I remember this was said. Why the fuck are we not best friends? And I was like, I know. And I put your name in my phone. I don't know if you remember, it's Kevin motherfucking Jensen. And so every
Is it
time
still that?
not anymore.
Some people might call me that for different reasons.
I
but
mean,
yeah.
yes. But I remember putting
Ralph
your name in my
Hancock
phone.
in particular.
Fuck Ralph Hancock.
Fuck Ralph Hancock.
That's right.
Thank you all.
But ever since then, we were just kind of connected and eventually made my way into karaoke scene. Kevin was huge in that. In fact, one of your handles online is karaoke KJ.
It's true.
But we loved karaoke, and that was a way that we, I think, deepened and built our friendship. And since then, have been on trips together and hung out a ton. And it's been just a beautiful friendship. Just want to say I love you, man. Like
I love you too.
I cannot imagine life without all of you. But Kevin,
Mostly Kevin.
just
Aw,
like,
thank you.
the reason I know Will is through Kevin too, but more on that later. But that's how I met Kevin. Why aren't we best
Hooray.
friends? Yeah.
We are now. Yeah.
Now we are.
Thank
Will,
you, man. I
Will,
love
how did you
too.
meet Kevin?
How did I meet Kevin? So it was on my first day of a new job. We went out to lunch and Kevin was there, and Kevin had actually just started around the same time.
It's true.
And so he was kind of just giving me like the lay of the land, just asking him out. Like, really, it was just like it was like my first job outside of like working with family. Not like I had worked with family in the past, and so it's just like I always knew somebody from the company I was going to go work for. And so this was like really like my first time like going to a new company, and I had no idea what the fuck was going on, and I'm just like, I don't even know how to like talk to these people. And Kevin, bless his heart, is just such a nice dude. And he talked me up like the whole way while we were going to get lunch. So he was like my first like work friend that I had. So
Yay.
that's how I met.
Those were good times.
Those
and
were
then
good times.
And then I tried to give you alcohol when you were underage and realize it. But yeah. No, shout out to
it was
some
only
of
like
our
a month or two.
Yeah, it was close to your 21st birthday. But shout out to some of our listeners. Taylor, shout out to Trevor, shout out to Dan.
Big Dick Darren.
Big Dick Darren.
Always.
Like always. Belinda was actually over sometime last week.
Yeah.
And I was on a conference call. I'm like, oh, that's Big Dick Darren. And then I looked down. I'm like, oh shit, I hope I was muted. And I was.
Okay.
It was fine. But I'm like, that's Big Dick Darren right there.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I would have
be
loved
amazing.
if that had been live and everybody had heard you say that. And then it'd been like, we want to know more. Oh my goodness. How do you know this?
Our good friend SH would have loved that, let me tell you.
Without divulging details, I'll just say I've done many things on conference calls that were
Oh, you've
audio or
told me
video
those
turned
stories,
on.
yeah.
I would have been fired. But
Pro tip,
no.
do not give your phone permission, or do not give the apps, like
That's a
your
good
meeting
call.
apps, do not give them permission to your camera. It's
Yes,
just-
absolutely.
Just do
On
it
your phone.
right
On your
now.
phone. Yeah.
On your phone,
That's
yeah.
a good
Do it
call.
right now.
I need to
promise.
uninstall and reinstall or
Seriously,
go into
man.
permissions. Yeah.
I might have just saved your job. Now go on your
Sure.
phone and turn off your permissions. I promise you. Just do
I'll
it.
do it after the show. Actually, I'll do it in the morning because I'll be fucked up after the show. But,
Belinda, how'd you meet Kevin?
So I met Kevin and Spencer about a week apart. We were
I
all
had no
part of-
idea. I had no idea about that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were all kind of in the same, we were part of the same Facebook group of recently departed Mormons, right? And also
Sounds like he just died. I don't
Huh?
like that.
we died from Mormonism.
dearly departed.
Our Mormon spirit departed to hell, and we lived on.
I guess that makes sense.
I
Yeah.
cannot handle that bird. I cannot. Every
Right?
time I see it.
Oh Jesus, it's so realistic. Oh
my God.
I'm worried it's gonna fly off into your face.
Seriously.
Okay, I'm sorry, Belinda. Go ahead.
No, so this group of people had organized a service project at the homeless youth shelter in Salt Lake City, and I signed up to help serve dinner there, and it's a wonderful place to volunteer if you ever
It is.
feel like going and volunteering. The kids are so lovely. They're kids I think from 16 to 21 there at
And you
the
can do
shelter.
it with a small group. Belinda and I have done it literally on our
Just
own.
the two of us, and you're serving dinner to about 60 kids, lunch or dinner, and they're just so sweet, so thankful. They're in a terrible situation, and this shelter is really, really helpful for everybody. They've got a little store for people to donate things that the kids might need, sundry items, clothing, whatever. So anyway, it's a fun place to go volunteer. So I volunteered
sure.
there. I show up. And then Kevin showed up later, just a few minutes later, and somebody introduced us, and I was like, well, he is cute. Oh my goodness. And he had these shoes on. They were these hand-painted the Big Lebowski shoes. Like Converse or something, or like they're just high top sneakers or whatever. And I was like, those are some cool shoes.
He would.
But I'm a little shy too, so I didn't want to let on that. I was kind of thinking he was cute, so I pretty much ignored him the entirety of the rest of the night.
It's true.
And then the next week, I was invited to a party. Kevin did not go to this party, but I don't know how to approach this. So I show up to this party at a friend's house, and it was a big party, a big stinking party. Lots of people there, right, Spencer?
Yes.
A ton of people. And I recently
So you
found video.
You met Kevin before you met me.
Yes, by
Okay.
oh no, wait, maybe it's. I think it was Kevin first. It was like just by a few days, right? I'll have to look. That video that I found that showed you kind of in the hallway.
I think you met him a week before you met me.
Oh, maybe that's the
This will
case.
be a good
'Cause it was
segue
Halloween
to you too.
anyway.
So
It was Halloween time or whatever. We got invited to this party.
it was November. It was sometime in November because it was a
Yeah.
birthday party for someone who also has a November birthday. I have a
Gotcha.
November birthday. Yep.
Oh, nice. So yeah, it was a birthday party. It was a big rager, music, tons of people. It was a little wild. And it was probably one of my very first wild parties, to be honest. didn't really have much of a community after leaving the church and didn't have a lot of friends. And I just recently met up with this group of people that just like to have fun and explore their new lives outside of Mormonism. And I went to this party and it was an experience for sure.
I didn't think
And
it was
somebody,
that crazy though.
it wasn't that crazy, but to me, newly
At the time, yeah.
At the
okay.
time,
at the time, you know, I show up and you know there's all these people, they're drinking a lot,
The
and
devil's lettuce was in
the
attendance.
devil's
Oh.
lettuce
Oh,
was
wow.
involved, yes, with my meeting Spencer.
That's a
And
crazy
so somebody invited us out to the garage. And what did they have, Spencer?
They had a glass artifact that was being used to consume some sort of herb, and
Yes, a large
Like a
glass.
straw,
of-
like a
this
glass
is like
straw?
the perfect fucking segue because the first time I met Belinda was in this garage. I'm like, what the fuck is happening right now?
like literally,
Here's
there was
this
a
Relief-
bong on the hood of someone's car.
Here's this Relief
and-
Society primary president looking motherfucker just go to town
Hitting the bomb
like a pro. I'm like, oh my god. And that's actually where I met our other mutual friend as well, who was the purveyor of said herbs.
That is true. Yeah.
For many
But yeah,
people.
that was a party, man. I just a little bit of context and background here. So divorced as well,
Yeah.
through the four of us. I was super fucking paranoid at the time. One of our friends, shout out Christy, had texted me like, "Oh, your ex is gonna be at the party." I was like, "Oh shit, really?" And I had a choice to make. I was like, you know what? I can hide away or I can go to this party. And I decided
Yeah.
I'm going to this fucking party. So I go, but I don't remember who it was. Someone told me that Belinda was like mutual friends, and I was like, oh fuck her, whatever. I'm gonna be weird about everything. I wish I wasn't, because Belinda's hella fucking cool. And ever since then, clearly she was at my fancy as fuck party that I had. Not fancy fuck party. Although but
It kind of went that way.
For some
See,
people,
shh, we can't
Not
tell the
us.
audience this.
Not us.
But
one of the best stories ever.
we'll just say ex-Mormon parties get a little crazy sometimes. But Belinda was there, and I fucking love Belinda. Belinda's amazing. Just it's a beautiful thing to think about how life. It's almost like you have these like stories that sometimes just cross over and interweave, and it's just such a fucking beautiful thing.
Yep.
It is.
And I did know Spencer's ex-wife before I met Spencer, and we had done a lot of things together. But you know what? Here's a pro tip, just the tip from Belinda this time.
Ooh.
Kevin, I wasn't gonna
Don't
laugh.
get involved in other people's shit. Just so you're aware. Like, we've all got our own drama to deal with. You know what? It's just wise just not to involve yourself in other people's trash. Okay.
Yes.
So that's my pro tip. And that was just what I live by, try to live by. And even with Spencer and his ex-wife, I'm like, I
Use your
don't wanna be
imagination.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Small world, though. In fact,
Right?
I've heard many times in the ex-Mormon community the phrase "small lake city" being used.
I hear that all the time, actually.
Small lake city. How did you meet Belinda? Will? I'm assuming it's through Kevin.
Yeah, no, how I met Belinda was literally Kevin texted me one day and was like, "Hey, so Belinda's gonna come and pick up my laptop because I forgot it.
Oh, that's right.
Could you go up to my desk and get it for her?" So I was like, "Okay." That's how I met
A
Belinda.
favor.
Sure.
Thank
that's
you.
how
Will.
we
Thanks
that's
for
how we
that.
met. But like, you came to our house one time.
Yeah,
and
That's true.
we had like this deep discussion for hours. We were like drinking and talking about I don't know what, like something
Wow.
Will centric. Like it was just great. I remember.
Yeah, it was
So
one of
do
those.
you want to know what
spiritual alien
do you know
things.
why we met? Spencer bailed on it, but it was this podcast when we originally were talking
right.
about making this podcast, which was like 2 years before we actually started it.
Mhm.
So Spencer and Will and I went to lunch from work one day, and it turned
Right.
into like you've heard of 3 martini lunches. This was like a 4 margarita lunch at Taco
The
Bell.
first time I had a mojito.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice.
And
I remember that.
so we were like, we're gonna fucking do this podcast. It's gonna be incredible. It's gonna be unreal. And so me being me, I was like, well, let's have a meeting. Let's get together and discuss the priorities.
Started an
of
Excel
blah, blah,
sheet
blah.
for a Gantt
Exactly.
chart.
You all know I've shared
Kevin is the king of Excel.
many
Yes.
spreadsheets with you. Yeah.
So good. So I love about you. Kevin.
But yeah, you came over and we ended up like hanging out for hours and hours and talking about deep, dark secrets and lots of incredible things. So it was the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Yeah.
It was.
Yeah,
And then we started a group chat called Thirst Impressions for like 2 years until we actually did it.
seriously, I guess the pandemic kind of created some space for creativity and just like
That's true.
going for it. We're just like, fuck it, let's do it. I mean, there's
Right.
other things on the back burner we won't speak of that
It's
are
true.
still
There's
there on
always
life
things.
support, but you
And we
know,
should still do.
things will happen.
Melding.
I feel like things will happen.
It's
with
like
that.
milk punch. It's melding in the background
like
True.
to
like a
mellow
milk-
into this beautiful.
milk
milk
punch or a
punch, Kevin. I
well-crafted
just love it.
infusion. Yes, absolutely. It's almost like a target on a butthole. So I remember we talked about that, but it's been cool. The first time I met Will was, and just by way of background information here. So I worked at a company, hooked Kevin up with a position there. I think Will was not by referral, but we just all ended up working at the same place.
I got super lucky how I got my job, honestly.
We were there
I don't even know how you got
approximately
your
the
job.
same time. Yeah.
No, literally, my brother, he was going to a really prestigious school in the East. Just not even. I'm not gonna give him. I'm not even gonna give him.
Harvard.
Yeah, just
There's a few, but
and so he had met with one of the executives at this said company that we worked for. And he was like, you should go apply, because I was working first started that he started like years earlier and had left. And like literally I have no idea how I got the job. Like I like literally so it's in software. I'm hoping I'm not giving too much information away, but
You're fine.
I don't think I am. So it's in software, and there's like this one language that it's like that it was for. And I had done a little bit of it before, but like literally the weekend before my interview, I just cram studied it, nailed it, and got the job. I'm really good at what I do though. So it's not like that far-fetched. It's just
I'm gonna
total luck.
I'm gonna pause you for a minute, because since I went first in terms of you all talking about me, I don't really have stories to tell, because we met each other at the same time, right? But Will is honestly one of the smartest people in real life I've ever met. Not just in terms of like talent to be able to learn things, but he actually takes the time especially for such a young fucking dude, right? Like, he takes the time to read and to learn and to study and to listen and to do whatever drugs are required to understand. So it's that's totally a joke, law enforcement officers. Just a joke. But no, seriously, dude, you're like, I don't think any of the three of us are surprised that you got the job. You're a smart dude. So
I
talented.
do appreciate that. I still think it was luck, but I remember I think you're getting to the Spencer. I remember when me and you first like actually like did work together. It was like on some
the Skunk Works yeah.
We did a little I don't know how you define
For
it.
the
R&D project, I guess.
Yes, that's a fair enough.
CG for CG.
No,
it was for
PG.
strategy and
Oh,
innovation.
way back when.
Way back when.
Oh, fuck. Nice. I didn't know that. Yeah.
That was the first time I think me and you actually like interacted, because we just never crossed paths, really.
Not as much. I mean, I remember when you
just when Spencer came to talk to me.
Yeah.
I would come down and talk to Kevin and be like, "Oh, hey, Will,"
all the time, and people are like, "Poor Taylor." Poor Taylor's like, "Oh, good."
I know.
Like, these guys are.
But no, I remember when
Jesus.
Will got his forearm tattoo.
Oh yeah.
And
The
for
tree, right?
fans who don't know, Will used it was the other one.
Oh, the other one? Oh, no,
Yeah,
no. I got this one before.
No,
It was
didn't you
this-
get the tree thing? Where's the trees?
No, this is the trees one. It's
Oh,
It's
okay,
just
okay.
upside down. Yeah.
Oh, my bad. Okay. Yeah, that's the one then. But for fans who don't know, Will used to have very long, luxurious hair.
did. It was like
Only fans would
it
know.
was it was like
Onlyfans.com/.
it was like seriously when I cut it,
There's
it
We
was
should literally have an OnlyFans.
no, we should not. No. It was my hair was like literally like 5 or 6 inches down my back. That's how long.
Yeah. No, it
Yeah.
was super long. Yeah. And you only wore a beanie all the time.
It's true.
I only when we start not working from home all the time, I'm gonna start wearing a beanie more. Because look at this hair. This is such a.
I
need
think
a
the first photo I have of you is with long hair and a beanie for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I miss my long hair. Maybe I'll start wearing a wig or something.
Extensions, Will, extensions.
No,
That's true.
I like the long hair because I don't know. I think maybe tell me if you guys can relate because I don't know if this
Fair.
is just me, but I feel like here in Utah, I feel more comfortable when I like set myself apart from the Mormons.
Project away from Mormonism.
Like
Yeah.
specifically that.
Yeah.
Like I think kind of subconsciously why I'm kind of growing out my beard is like I just want people to know that I'm not fucking Mormon because I don't know why. Like it's just how I felt. And so having long hair made me feel more feminine, which I'm much more comfortable in a more feminine setting. And so having long hair just made me feel much more comfortable and it set me apart. So I kind of miss it.
I love that.
Do you guys relate to that?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
that's why when I got my first tattoo, which is the big one here,
Yeah.
it's not tiny and it's not
It's a snake.
black and white or
Snake.
anything. It's a
Snake.
here, let
And a
me,
beehive.
it's a beehive turning into a snake.
That's right.
Which for those of you from Utah, you can understand the symbolism there. But the tattoo artist was like, okay, I have this idea based on the sketches you sent me and things, but it's pretty like
Colorful. Yeah.
it's big, it's colorful, it's intense. But if you want, you could put it on your upper, because I told him I want it on my forearm.
Put it on your upper ass cheeks.
Yeah, put it on your upper dick or
Your upper ass
no.
ditch.
No, like he said, like your upper leg or whatever. And then that way, if you don't want people to know about it, it would be hard for them to know about it unless you really wanted them to. And I was like, I want everyone to know about it. Are you kidding me? If I was brave enough to be Post Malone, I would have put it on my face. That's how much I want people to know about it. But so yeah, I can definitely relate. And I grew my hair out as well for a while. And that's part of the reason why is I just wanted to like do what I wanted and not have my appearance be based on what other people wanted, whether it was pretty much anyone. I mean, but certainly not any church-based institution. So.
Yeah, I had brunch with a friend today, and we talked about a lot of things. We talked about spiritual journeys with the assistance of mycelium. I'll just say that. We talked about life and transitions, but one of the things that came up was, this idea of being authentic to ourselves and stepping into our own at risk of losing business. For me,
Right.
leaving the Mormon church was not a small thing. I grew up in the Mormon church. For those who don't know, even though I'm from Jamaica, I grew up in the Mormon church. So my brain, my worldview, all of that is influenced by Mormonism. And we've all left. We all individually have our stories. I haven't heard everyone's story. I don't know. I mean, I feel I've heard Belinda's story. I haven't heard Will's story at all, ever.
Little parts of it. But.
Little parts. I kind of have an idea. And frankly, I do not give a fuck about Mormonism per se, in the sense that I don't follow it. I don't keep up with the drama and the bullshit and all that like some people do. Props to you if you do. Awesome. Everyone needs a hobby. But for me, it's not my thing, right? So, but in addition to sharing how we met each other, we also wanted to talk a little bit about our exits. And it's something, at least for me, and I'm fairly certain, I would hazard a guess that it's also impactful, emotional, and has influenced your lives in very deep ways, right? So for me, I grew up in the Mormon church, from Jamaica. I took a lot of pride in this idea, this concept that I was a pioneer in some way, you know.
You literally
It's-
were.
You
though,
were,
right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not normal to find. It sounds so funny saying it, but it's not normal to find Black people in the Mormon church, let alone Black people, you know,
Why
Jamaica,
is that? Why
tiny
is that?
island. Well, it's funny you ask.
Right?
Mormonism is super fucking racist.
Oh, that
What?
We'll save that for another episode, but it's not normal. And so, yeah, you know, church for me growing up was always not about the doctrine, but more about community and family, I would
Right.
say.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, we'd go to church on Sunday, and it wasn't about even being in class, being in that main meeting or other groups. It was about the time after church when we got to hang out with people and like build those bonds. And I'm still friends with many of those people. I don't know if they're listening. Hopefully they are, but still friends with them. So I would say my first like reality piercing, shelf breaking existential crisis happened on my mission. For those who don't know,
Oh.
Mormons, they go on a 2-year, I'll just be generous and say service-based excursion.
Paid for by
another-
yourself and your family.
You pay for it
Yeah.
yourself, and your family, sometimes at the expense of feeding your family. You send this older sibling out because that's what God says you should fucking do. So you do it. So I went to San Antonio, Texas. It was awesome. I loved it. I have no regrets, remorse about that time. I have what I call curiosities, but not remorse. What if I didn't go? What would life be like? But I'm not like, oh, fuck you, Mormon church. I went to Texas. It's not like that. So I go to Texas, had a great experience. And I went at a time where, man, this rum is kicking in though. Tell you what.
I know.
But I went at a time where Mormons, so in the Mormon churches, if you've ever seen one of those church buildings, they look like something out of the 70s. But if you've ever seen one, awesome, or my condolences. But in any case, they have a library. Okay. Back in the day, these libraries were super hella fucking cool. Like you could find the Journal of Discourses, Doctrines of
Yeah.
Salvation, Mormon Doctrine, first edition, by the way. All this super rad shit. So I go to Texas and I should go grab this book, but I think I can quote it reasonably well. I find this book called The Church and the Negro. And I'm like,
Oh,
what the fuck is this? This is interesting. I'm thinking, this is interesting. I'm going to read this. I'm going to
Aye.
take a look. So I pull it off the bookshelf. I open it. Somehow fall on a page in this book. And on this page, this is a long, I'd say it's a medium long story. So hang with me, people.
No,
You're good.
okay.
You're
You
good.
fall on this page, and it talks about a Mormon prophet, Wilford Woodruff, speaking about an early Mormon saint or member, if you will, someone who had been baptized, named Jane Manning James. Do you all know who that is?
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
You don't.
No clue. Okay. Jane Manning James is a Black, or as the book says, colored sister who was a part of the early church and repeatedly denied access to the temple or any
Yep.
priesthood blessing. Okay. There was also another gentleman, Elijah Abel, and supposedly Joseph Smith had ordained him to the priesthood. That was revoked, changed, sidestepped, whatever, excused when Brigham Young took control of the church. So this book talked about her a little bit. Wilford Woodruff praised her dedication, her diligence, her faithfulness. Without going off on a tangent, reminds me a lot of my family who actually joined the church before the 1978 revelation by the Mormon Church, revelation policy change with regards to Black people. Okay.
Oh, wow.
But I digress. So I'm reading this book and it says that Wilford Woodruff would often speak highly of people. Joseph Fielding Smith presided over her funeral and said that she would, I'm not sure if it was him or Wilford Woodruff, but in any case, a Mormon prophet said, this is a good thing because now she would attain, and these words meant a lot to me at the time. She would attain the longing of her heart and become, I shit you not, Will, because you're like, Will's like,
wait for this. This is the punchline.
She would attain the longing of her heart and become a white and beautiful person. And I was like, oh my God, what is happening? Who am I went into a full-on existential spiral. I was like, who am I? What matters? Is this for real? Like, I'm gonna be white? I mean, y'all are beautiful, whatever. I love you. But I'm just saying, your identity is that. I'm 20, almost 21 at this point, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna be resurrected white. Resurrection is the belief in the Mormon church that after you die, you come back to life, after Christ comes back to earth. Read about it. But I'm thinking, I'm gonna be a fucking white dude.
Delightsome, right?
Yes.
We'll be twins, Spencer.
Man, that could, race in the Mormon church could be its own podcast, and I'd be happy to talk about that for like 6 hours.
Yeah, we should definitely do that.
I'm just saying, it sent me into a place. All right, so that happened on my mission. I mustered whatever cognitive gymnastics I could do, and I settled on, okay, the Book of Mormon is true. Cool, finish your mission. And admittedly, Kevin, Belinda, and Will, the reason I did that is because my immigration status in the United States was literally tied to whether I finished my mission. Okay.
Really?
And if I could go to another school.
Otherwise, you go back. At that point in time, was your family in the US? Or
I don't even want to get into weeds on that because I could talk about it for hours. Yes. So my family is in the US, all of them. If I do not fulfill this commitment that I agreed to, because peer pressure, Mormon church, social pressure, whatever.
Right.
I was gonna have to fucking go home and be without my family. Like, who in their right mind would do that?
And by home, you mean your home country, but not home.
Yeah, home, like home with no immediate family, because all my immediate family is in the US at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
It just sucks. We can talk about immigration reform one day.
Oh, absolutely.
And the problems there, and just this whole shitstorm of what I went through, because I lived it. I did immigration the quote unquote legal way. It's also a shitstorm, right? In its own way. So I settled on, okay, the Book of Mormon is true. Cool. I'm going to deal with that. And then let's just fast forward. 2015, the Mormon church says, okay, if you're a child of gay parents, you can't be baptized unless you denounce, renounce, deny, defy, whatever. Leave behind your parents. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm teaching at BYU at the time. I look at my spouse at the time. I'm like, what are we doing? Because we were about to pay tithing. We're not doing this, right? And she's like, no. I'm like, yeah, we're not doing this. So that was kind of the end of me and the Mormon church. Got divorced about 7 months after that. And well, not 7 months, but 5-6 months. But that was kind of the progression, discovered Mormon Stories podcast and learned a lot of stuff about patriarchy and polygamy and priesthood and the corporation of the presiding bishopric, and that the church is a fucking business. And that is what unraveled everything for me. The wedge, the initial crack was that idea. I am Black, I am sinful, and I am going to be white. As a fucking correction, because who I am is a mistake or sin or whatever. It's so fucked up.
And you're going to be white, which is in their vision, the correction, right? If you pay your tithing.
If I paid my tithing, if I conformed. You talked
about
if I conform, if I don't speak up.
In the end, they want you to give them free labor. They want you to give them your money, and they want you to give them like every mental component of your life.
Yeah, and for those who don't know,
they don't care what the fuck you do. Actually, they'll forgive you for most of those things, but if you don't fucking pay tithing, you're fucking out.
For those who don't know, Kevin mentioned free labor. Like, So the Mormon church operates on this idea that everything's volunteer. If you're the leader of your local congregation, no matter how much time you give during the week, that actually takes away from time with your family and your partner
And
For
your
your
job,
job
perhaps.
or your
Yeah.
job. Sometimes they don't pay you
Yeah.
No.
to
Not
clean
only
You
to
pay.
clean the church.
The
Not
fucking
They
only that.
toilets.
enlist members in the local congregation to do that shit for free.
And
Yep.
not only that, but a lot of people when I'm criticizing, or when people online are criticizing the church and they're like, oh, well, they don't spend that much on humanitarian stuff. A lot of Mormons will link to like this number of like
Yeah.
billions of dollars that the church has given to humanitarian aid, which if you actually look into what that number represents, they actually take into account all of the volunteer hours. So
Yep.
it's not even monetary stuff that they're donating.
Right. Yeah.
They're considering people going and cleaning their churches as humanitarian aid. So then people online can go and say, hey, look, no, the churches actually donated billions of dollars to humanitarian stuff. No, it's just, it's
Billions.
exactly what you're saying.
Millions, not
Yeah.
billions.
Hundreds of cans of spaghetti, Will. Hundreds of cans of spaghetti, which were paid for by volunteer labor and volunteer donations.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's complete bullshit.
Yeah.
No,
I'm
it's-
on kind of a, oh, go ahead, Will.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I'm kind of on a similar timeline as Spencer was
That's
because
true.
I think we left around the same time, right?
yeah, for sure.
Well,
so, like,
I was actually, so I'm not cutting you off, Belinda. I
no,
want
you're
you to
good. Go ahead.
Because I am actually on the same timeline too.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited
I'm
because I don't know your story, Will. But go ahead,
so
Belinda.
Go ahead, Belinda.
Okay. So I was raised LDS from infancy, a member of record, or what do they call it? Born in the covenant.
Born in the
whatnot.
BIC.
BIC. You get those little initials
What's
after
up,
your
Big?
name.
No, PPA, no info.
Yo, big.
PPA,
Oh, that
federal
needs to be
agents
something.
mad because I'm flagrant.
Yes, for reals. I'm actually a descendant of Brigham Young.
Brother Brigham, bro.
Yeah, Brother Brigham. Yeah. And so it was raised to like be so proud of that fact. So Brigham Young had many, many wives. Polygamy is a big deal in the Mormon church, especially early on. And so many male members had several wives, and Brigham Young, nobody knows quite how many he had.
It was in the 30s or 40s.
People said 25, but that's been a few years ago. I think it's probably more because he probably had some spiritual wives. They call it just like added.
Is that
like,
when they only give you head?
Oh my god.
Oh, fuck.
No, it's when you
Sorry.
all you do is soak.
Oh, it's soaking.
soaking
It's
only.
No,
Yeah. Oh my
soaking.
god.
no.
Well, we'll save it for another show. We'll save it. We'll call the show Weird Mormon Sex or something.
Anyway,
Yes.
so Brigham Young, his first
my
wife,
God.
he was married and he had a couple of children, 2 daughters, and then his wife passed away and he was
Did
a
she
widower.
die like in Vermont way back then?
Yeah, like
Or-
way
okay.
before maybe he was even a member of, like he had thought of the church or met Joseph
Yeah.
Smith or anything. And so he was single for a number of years. I'll have to look into that. I didn't really know like what the timeline is, but he ended up meeting my ancestor, which was his next wife, legally married to this woman, Mary Ann Angel, and her brother was the architect of the Salt Lake Temple, Truman Angel. He did a lot of things for the church, but Mary Ann Angel, she must have been just a lovely lady, but she was not. She just had a pretty
Not
face.
traditionally beautiful.
Right. Like we'll put a picture of her. She's a sweetheart. She looks a little like Jim Belushi, but
Or what's the other actor? The brother of the one dude.
John
yeah.
Travolta.
No,
Wilson. Luke Wilson. She looks a
she
lot
does
like
look
Luke
like
Wilson.
Luke
Oh, okay.
Wilson.
I'm thinking of a
Um,
different conversation. Just ignore my.
No, you're good.
my suggestion.
So she was a lovely lady, and we were always told, it was kind of like passed down in our family, that Brigham Young, after he started up polygamy, like in his family, she wasn't any longer the hot wife, right? Like she was
Was she ever?
no, but then he's like, hey, I can have all the babes, right? So he started marrying all these younger women, right? And so she was no longer, I don't know, the top bitch, right? And so when they got to
Bottom
Utah,
bitch.
right? So when they got to Utah, she didn't live in the Beehive or Lion House, which were his like fancy residences in Salt Lake City, which you can tour these days.
The fuck
and they were-
pad.
yeah, the fuck pads, like, and it was like it was full of rooms for all his wives and children, but not my ancestor. And she and her children were sent to live up on Capitol Hill in a separate residence. She wasn't as social, so she didn't go to the parties and meet people, the famous people that came around to town, whatever.
Damn.
We knew this growing up, that she was kind of forgotten, and her kids weren't really, they didn't know their dad very much. Like, it was just kind of this kind of
That's sad. as
sad
shit.
relationship. But we were so proud to be descendants of Brigham Young, right? We're so fucking proud of that. We were descended from a prophet. What? Anyway. So, oh, did you share a picture of her?
I did.
There you
Tell me
see.
that's not Jim Belushi meets.
Oh my
Wilson.
God.
Or Luke Wilson. Either
Okay, we'll put that in the show notes. But
Yeah, you have to. So anyway, I was very Mormon, always
Bless
very
her heart.
Mormon. I didn't really ever think about the church not being true. And then, and one thing I do love, and I still love it, is genealogy. I love finding out about my ancestors. I think it's fascinating. And one day I was doing,
Genealogy. I am doing it. My genealogy. That's a song. You don't know that, Spencer?
oh, I thought you were going to
No.
finish it. You're not going to finish,
No,
Kevin?
I don't know that
Sometimes
song.
I don't feel like finishing.
Linda, are you sucking on your bird?
Yes, I'm sucking on my bird. So one day I'm doing genealogy and I'm looking up information about Marianne Angel, Brigham Young's wife, and I see a quote by her, and it said, "God will be very cruel if he doesn't offer compensation for the life we have endured in polygamy."
Oh, fuck.
And this was like Joseph Smith when he saw the beam of light, or like he was filled with light when he read the scripture in the Bible or whatever, like the
This
touched
was
off
your
Mormonism.
first vision.
This was my first vision, and I literally felt like I was full of light. Like I was like, this is like groundbreaking. There's some information that I have not acknowledged that I knew was true, and I haven't been paying attention to it. And I was like just shocked. I sat there stunned, like looking at the computer page, and just a couple links down from that quote was the CES letter. And if you don't know what the CES letter is,
lovely.
and I clicked on that link and I started reading, and I was just kind of scanning the document. I'm just going through and I'm like, okay, so I'm done with this, I guess. And at the time I was in the primary presidency in my ward in Draper. I was fully believing everything. And within an hour I was like, what just happened? And my sister had left a couple of years before. And I remember texting her and being like, I don't know what's happening. It's like your world shatters, right? Like you're like, all of a sudden, I don't understand. And this was a little bit after the church had made mention of that the edict that children of gay parents would not receive blessings, baby blessings. They couldn't be baptized. They wouldn't be accepted as members of the church until they were 18 and could give permission, which is what it should be anyway. But anyway, I digress. Sure. So yeah, it was after that, and I had been struggling with that as a member of the primary presidency because I loved the kids in the ward. They were so sweet and everything, and I'm thinking this is totally against everything Jesus ever preached about in the Bible. This is so wrong, and people were just like, you just have to trust that God will make it right. Just wait and see. And eventually, they rescinded that policy, but
they were speaking as men, Belinda.
Yeah, I guess. But I think it would be interesting to know how many people left the church because of that. It'd be fascinating to know the exodus of Mormons that left the church because of that.
It was a lot.
Never be sure.
Yeah.
It was a ton.
Yeah. How about you, Will? You said we're on a similar timeline. I've never heard your story, I will say.
So
I'm
I don't know.
curious.
I've always been one of those. I was always one of those rebellious kids growing up. Anybody that knows me personally probably has heard some of the stories of me being rebellious. And so I've always just had. I feel like looking back, like hindsight 2020, of course, but like looking back, I think I've always had some, or at least growing up in Mormonism, I don't think I ever truly believed without a doubt. Like, I think there was always something in my head. Like, I think I've told stories on this podcast about how, like, even in just like the little kid church classes, I'd always be like, oh, why do you receive the revelation? Like, I feel the spirit right now. So how come your spirit is telling me something different? Like, I had this like disconnect from.
You're a little shit is what you mean. You were a little shit.
I was.
And we're so glad for that.
I got pulled out of the hall in classes, in church classes all the time, because I would like bring up things. Well, like, I don't think that's right. The spirit's telling me something different. Like, I would literally say that.
I love that.
And so I was always kind of like this like little free thinker and kind of challenging the lesson in Sunday school. And but I was still like a member of the church, and I would do all the things. I'd go to baptism for the dead all the fucking time. I did early morning seminary. I did all the stuff. But then when it was time to go to college, I had this high school girlfriend that I was just obsessed with. I've mentioned in the past, like I suffer from depression and anxiety, and having a significant other really takes away a lot of that stress. It's not a healthy way. Like, that is not a healthy way to deal with your mental illness. Do not do that. If you're suffering from mental illness, go see a therapist. Therapists are life-changing, seriously.
Absolutely.
But I didn't know it at the time, and so that's kind of how I dealt with it. And so I was just like obsessed with having a girlfriend, and we moved out, went to Utah State, and at this time I was kind of already like, I just wasn't going to church, but I wasn't like out of the religion. Like I hadn't made the decision that like, oh, I don't fully disbelieve anymore. Like, it was more of like, oh, I'm trying out. Like,
you were a Jack Mormon. You were a little.
I was a Jack Mormon. I was definitely a Jack Mormon, where I was like, oh, I still believe, but like, I'm gonna choose my own path, type of thing. And then when the policy change around children of gay parents and all that stuff started to happen, that's when I started to actually started to get more into like progressive politics too. And I looked at that, and I saw that the church was making this like horrible like decision that would punish gay people, and I just could not understand it. It just baffled my mind. Like, why would, like, because in the context of this time, I was still believing. So I was thinking, like, why would Jesus want to make gay people suffer and have their children denounce them in order to join his church? It just like was this cognitive like disconnect that I couldn't do the gymnastics for. And that was also the time, Belinda, it was interesting that you mentioned this, that I found the CES letter. And I started reading the CES letter, and I started finding out, like, wait a second, the Book of Abraham, that's like just
yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Bullshit.
To me, that was more magical than the Book of Mormon itself, because I was like, oh my gosh, like some dude just happened to have a skeleton with like this ancient scripture with it. What?
Well, so to those for those who don't know, the Book of Mormon is the primary canon of the Mormon Church.
Yes.
The Book of Abraham is an ancient scripture purported to be translated Egyptian in nature, translated by the prophet Joseph Smith into a scripture. All right, so
the
Book of Mormon, Book of Abraham, that's what we're talking
about. It's really considered the word of God, right?
Yes.
Like,
well,
that really affected me, because the Book of Abraham, or is it the Pearl of Great Price that the Book of Abraham is?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So the Pearl of Great Price was like my favorite part of the Book of Mormon, because that was like, to me in my head at the time, that was like the most scientific part of the Book of Mormon. That was like explaining, like the Book of Abraham. I know the Book of Abraham was like, so like you have like the book of like the Book of Genesis, which was like in the Bible, which kind of gives you an outline of how the universe was created.
The creation, yeah.
Yeah, but the Book of Abraham goes into more details about how consciousness was created, according to
This
like the
idea of
Mormon mythology.
intelligence. Yep.
And so to me, obviously, like if you heard our discussion from last week, like that sort of stuff just fascinates me, like to no end, like still to this day.
You're going off the deep end, Will. You're going off the deep end.
I'm not. And so the Book of Abraham to me was like the most fascinating like book of scripture to me of all time. I would like reread it all the time. I've read it like, I probably can't even count the amount of times I've read it.
I'm going to read it tonight.
So when I read it in the CES letter about how like, oh no, like Egyptianologists have like they say it's just like another like funeral parchment that they would include with mummies. Like it wasn't anything unique. It was super common. And then that along with I had no idea that Joseph Smith had different accounts of the first vision.
Right?
Many,
like 6 or 7 different types of.
No, more than that, I'm pretty sure.
Is it more? Yeah, I'm sure it's more. And so like after reading that, and so like during this time that like I was really concerned about like the church's stance of gay members. And then I read all the stuff and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like I got to distance myself from this because it doesn't, at this time, it's also important to mention that me and the person who I moved out with were like breaking up. So this was kind of like a tumultuous time in my life. And so I was just kind of trying to redefine myself. And I was just like, I can't deal with this church thing anymore. Like if I'm going to join a church, I'm going to make sure it stands up to my morality and not to some morality that's dictated to me. Yeah. And so that's I submitted. I had to go through the lawyer that set up quitmormon.com.
Same.
Yeah. Praise him. Praise him.
I messaged.
Praise to the man who's.
This was before he set up the website. So like I messaged him on Reddit and I got like his email and we went back and forth and he finally sent my resignation. And then the bishop of the ward up in Logan, Utah, that I had never talked to, sent missionary after missionary, four sets of missionaries.
Wow.
In 1 month. When I sent my resignation letter, 4 sets of missionaries. Like it was insane. And so I just was like, no, I'm completely done with this shit. And that's how it went. That's how I left. And then
it's beautiful.
I told my parents, who are very Mormon, and I love them to death. So I'm not going to get into like the familial aspect of this because I think it's old history for me. But I remember when I told my parents, it was like in passing. It was like I was in my hometown coming back home from college, and I was like on my way to bed, and I was just like, oh, by the way, I just barely resigned from the church, and then I went to bed.
Night.
It's amazing.
I still haven't told my family.
But they know.
I'm certain they have
they know I don't go, but I think it's
that caused a lot of drama in my family, which I'm just not going to get into this podcast because
that's fine.
But
there's always drama surrounding that, right?
Yeah.
For me, it was more like, yo, none of us are coming back. At least most of your kids. So deal with it. And I put my shades on and I walked off.
I will say this though. So
the shades come down like the meme. Stupid. Sick AF.
two things from the fallout of that story though was just after that's like when me and my girlfriend at the time we had broken up, and seriously, like that year after of me like leaving religion and leaving, because like I said, this is when I was like starting to explore like more progressive politics and like kind of expanding my mind out of this conservative mindset. That's when I got my first boyfriend, which is super awesome.
I love
Right.
that.
And also that was a really I don't know how to describe this. Me and my parents kind of had like a falling out, but then I feel like I've helped them see the light of like actual love, where it's not contingent on what religion you're part of.
Love is big. Love is huge. Like
Exactly.
love. Maybe we'll save this for another episode as well. But
Yeah.
I'm hot on this whole like idea that love is expansive and can
Yes.
account for many things.
I would
Right.
love to hear your perspective on this, because like during this time, like I said, there's kind of like a falling out in my family, and it's taken years, but like me and my family, me and my parents, me and my mom and dad, they're like my best friends, and like they're still super Mormon, and like that's kind of why you might hear me on this podcast try to defend Mormons just a little bit, because I know that there are people who still believe in that religion,
Oh, of course.
genuinely try to live in Jesus Christ's footsteps, even if my understanding of Jesus and like the doctrine that he used to teach, if he existed, I would think that he would be a loving person, and he would love gay people, he would love sex workers, he would love every single person. That's at least how I feel. Like if you actually took his doctrine to heart, I feel like that's who my parents are. Is like they're not like the doctrine like cultists of Mormonism. They're
Right.
genuinely loving people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
if you hear me defending Mormons on this podcast, just know it's out of love, and it's out of
I mean,
your parents are young enough though. I wouldn't be surprised if they left at some point.
yeah.
No. They're much older. They're older than Kevin, so that's pretty old.
But still, like they're
Oh,
not fucking
Jesus
78
Christ.
and 81 like my parents.
Fuck you.
You know?
No, but here's the thing.
I just wanted to poke fun at you, Kevin. I love you. I love you, Kevin.
All
He's
the
like,
people
Will,
that we
I'm your
know.
father.
I was like, your parents are older than my parents? And then I was like,
No.
oh, he said me.
No, my mom's birthday was just the other day. She turned, oh fuck, I'm not even gonna guess.
Don't even say it. Yeah, it's fine.
I think it's older than 50. Maybe.
Oh, Jesus
I don't know.
Christ.
I don't know. I love you, Mom.
I
Happy birthday. I'm sorry.
Have
I'm
I dated your mom?
Oh God. Okay, Belinda, you had a thought. I didn't mean to cut
No,
you
I was
off.
just gonna say that all the people we know that are still members of the church and trying to make it work, even nuanced people, whatnot, they're part of an abusive organization.
It's
Oh my
true.
God.
It's literally.
It's true.
And so taking that to account, I'm trying to give space to people who like just are trying to live in an abusive situation, right?
We
like
have so
if
many
you've ever
hours of
known-
content to cover.
Right,
yes,
right. Like if
absolutely.
you've ever known somebody who's been in an abusive relationship and has acted weird or, you know, done odd things or whatnot, it's the same thing, really.
Yep.
Yeah.
Belinda, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'm not don't turn this into another segment.
Yeah,
But on Twitter, there's been a lot of Mormons speaking out since the Rainbow Day that we had a couple of weeks ago. It's actually been really beautiful to see, like these Mormons who are like progressive Mormons who are actually, in their mind, like I'm not on their side, of course, but like in their mind, they're trying to be more accepting to quote unquote doubters. And so there's been a few people that have like these really great Twitter threads trying to like talk about how their disbelief in some parts of the doctrine, how they could influence the church to be more like allow different diversity into the religion.
And this is kind of segues into Kevin's exit from the church, right?
Oh, great. But like, just finish off this thought was just like, I'm sorry, guys. Like, I know so many great progressive Mormons,
Right.
You're not going to change the church.
No.
That's not what it's set up for.
It's,
They're not going to be LGBTQ plus friendly. They're not going to be non-racist. They're not going to be anti-racist. They're not going to. I'm sorry, guys. They're just not going to be.
No.
It's not part of the
Okay,
religion.
I have a quick question for Belinda.
yeah.
How are you not like on the floor passed out? Because I've had most of this cocktail and you made a double
I mean, well, mine wasn't overproof.
and you have a bird. So
I also have a bird, a blessing bird, who's like blessing me with like endurance. No, I'm fucked up, really.
holy
fucked
shit.
up, so.
Okay, so Kevin, how did you leave?
Go
the
ahead,
church?
Kevin.
We'll wrap
I
up
will
with
say
Kevin.
I had a double, like a 2-ounce shot of rum before the show, right before the show as it started. And then I've had 3 cocktails. So
Damn.
I'm feeling some things. I'm feeling a burning in the bosom.
There you go.
But
Thank you, Holy Ghost.
oh no, it's a great segue.
Just
Belinda makes a great point. Jesus Christ!
Kevin was trying to
Belinda
make
makes
change.
a great point.
Yeah.
So you probably all have heard the phrase, I'm going to stay inside and try and change the church from within. That was me for a long ass time, like a
Bless your heart,
really
Kevin.
long time. So I never really had a shelf, if I'm being honest with you.
Neither did I. I mean, yeah.
So my shelf was not based on the religion. It was based on strict idea of following rules and believing that my parents and those who cared about me had my best interest at heart. So when we talk about burning in the bosom, when we talk about the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit, the spirit of revelation, any of these things, like I never felt that ever in any of the ways anyone described. And same situation as you all. Whether it was in my childhood, in my teen years, in my late teen years to early 20s, asking primary teachers, Sunday school teachers, seminary teachers, bishops, whatever, like, how do I really feel the things you're telling me I should be feeling that will feed me? And I just never felt them. And after a while, when you don't feel those things, guess what happens? When you live in a culture of constant, every week, many times a week by multiple people talking about being righteous, and because of their righteousness, them feeling those feelings.
Yeah.
Guess what you start to do? You start to just fucking not talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
And you fake it till you make it. In fact, I was literally told that by a bishop before. Like, just if you, I mean, this is actually almost every general conference of the LDS Church, they talk about faking it till you make it. They call it other things. But they're
endure to the end.
doubt your doubts. Doubt your doubts.
Doubt your doubts,
motherfucker.
Kevin.
Yeah.
Shut your brain off.
Yeah.
motherfucker.
Like a light switch, right?
So
It's
so
kind of
guess-
like when you're depressed. Just be happy. You know, just
yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
Be happy.
And guess what happens when you're a rule follower by nature, and you're told if you only follow the rules in exactness, you will receive all of these blessings, but you don't feel them. Guess what happens? You become obsessive about following the rules, right? Except masturbation. Like, I just love to beat it from a fairly early age, and like, I didn't really want to talk to a grown-ass man about that. Yeah. So I never really confessed to that. And that's probably the downfall of me. This is why I am the awful person I am today.
Just side note,
masturbation.
I did go to my bishop one time.
Yeah.
About watching porn.
Yeah.
It ended up horribly.
Yeah, it's super awkward when your bishop is your dad, though. I'll just say that.
Oh, God.
I'm telling you, man.
Oh boy. Yeah.
So here's the thing. I followed all the rules except for masturbation. Literally, like, I'm deacon's quorum president, I'm teacher's quorum president, I'm priest quorum first what the fuck ever they call it. They don't have a president because
Weren't you like AP on your mission and shit?
I was
Like,
AP on my mission. I was
Yeah, that
Jesus.
was me too,
seminary
man.
graduate. All those things.
Wow.
I never like didn't pay tithing. I never didn't home teach. I never didn't. I'm talking like all through.
yeah.
Was I always like doing all the things Mormon church? No, but I tried really fucking hard because I got this thing, and we should do an episode one day where we talk about this thing called your patriarchal blessing, which is this alleged prophecy from
Fortune
a
telling.
person.
It's
Yeah.
the fortune telling, yeah, for your life.
That's allegedly a direct revelation to you about your future. So it's fortune telling. Belinda's
Yeah.
absolutely right.
I
And
believe in it, guys. I partially believe in it. I'm sorry.
You believe in fortune telling, or you
In
believe
patriarchal
in
blessings?
I believe
Do you think they
that
channel shit?
I believe that some people could possess the ability of clairvoyance.
I do believe that,
but that's different than a
the
patriarchal
grandpa
blessing.
in your
I
ward,
think-
your
I
state.
think patriarchs. I'm sorry to cut you off, Kevin. I'm so sorry.
You're good.
I believe patriarchs have some ability of like they may be some sort of person who has more of a clairvoyant ability,
I'm calling
but
complete
it's
bullshit.
shrouded in religiosity, and so then they cloud their clairvoyancy in the religious context that they're trying to perceive
So
it.
here's why I'm going to call bullshit on this. The very first patriarch of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Jesus Christ, was Joseph Smith's father. Why was he called as a patriarch? Because he was fucking Joseph Smith's father.
No, it's because
He
his
was
wife
literally the
might and
patriarch,
delights in it.
Fair
Needed to-
point.
needed
Fair
to
point,
tell him.
Kevin. Counterpoint. There have been literal studies where people have.
I'm not doubting that.
Okay,
I'm not
but
doubting that.
there have been literal studies of people who possess the ability of ESP and different clairvoyance and different like mental abilities.
Some people don't like sports, Will. It's fine.
No,
We don't
it's
all
not
need
about
ESPN.
sports. It's not about sports.
ESPN, yeah.
No, ESP, not ESPN.
Extrasensory perception. Yeah.
Exactly. People do possess those abilities. It is
That is
a
true.
proven fact.
Not Mormons.
I am not arguing that in one bit. What I'm saying is
We're on the same page.
I've literally seen how callings are made within the church, both at the patriarch level, which at one point in time, not so much anymore, was a very, very prestigious, like it's
Fair
like
enough.
semi-prestigious at best now. But
Fair enough. I accept your premise, Kevin.
if you're old and if you're seemingly wise because you're blind or you're super old or I'm serious.
No, seriously,
I'm
dead
fucking serious. Or you have a weird haircut. Like
weird.
it's that random.
They have all the
what
weird.
I'm saying,
Weird
whether
haircut.
ESP or clairvoyance or any of these things are real, tying that to the patriarch calling in the LDS Church is not relevant.
Fair enough, Kevin.
In my opinion.
I will give you that. I agree.
So got this, especially as you start comparing patriarchal blessings, which
I don't even know where mine is. We should compare them
friends
one day.
out there, please feel free to send us your patriarchal blessings and your temple names. We would love them.
Oh,
But that being said, my patriarchal blessing told me how I was going to have angel visitations and how I was going to have revelations and all these fucking things.
But what
was
is an angel,
terrified.
Kevin? What is an angel?
I was fucking terrified of that shit. Marianne Angel? Maybe.
Right.
Maybe they were just talking about Belinda, the
or maybe the
Long
TV
lost
show
prodigy.
Touched by an Angel. Remember
Michael
that TV show?
Landon could touch me all day and all night.
No,
I'm
that
just
was
saying.
Highway to Heaven. Touched by an Angel was that
you're
late
right,
Irish
you're right.
lady.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry to derail the conversation.
So, sorry.
Go ahead.
So Mormons, Kevin, going to church, doing the things, serving the mission, BYUing for days.
Mhm.
I come home, I get married to the wonderful woman who waited for me on my mission from my BYU freshman year. Life's good. Like we're having a good time, we're doing the things. Meanwhile, I still don't feel a fucking thing. And I'm terrified to tell people about this because
That means
in
you're
my
not
mind,
faithful.
in my mind, that means they must know about either my masturbation or whatever, you know. So I don't. So I just keep trying harder, doing more, do all my home teaching, and call the elders quorum president the week before the month's over and say, who didn't get home taught? How can I help? Can I home teach some people that aren't going to get home taught? Like all of these things.
Kevin,
Meanwhile, shockingly, I get all these callings because I'm willing to do all this free fucking labor for everyone.
did you do this in a spreadsheet?
Probably, yeah. Likely. But so at some point in my mid 30s, I would say, probably my early to mid 30s, I remember something about turning 33 and my brother saying, dude, you're older than Jesus now. But I remember being very conservative politically, very do everything that I can to be the best member of the church I can. And one day, meanwhile, my now ex-wife, the lovely person that she is, she's great, but we're not married anymore. But she is an academic. She's a scholar. She's at BYU, but then at other universities, learning about the ways of the world throughout history and all generations of time. And I'm meanwhile kind of soaking some of this up and starting to realize, like, what do I actually think for myself? And it started with politics. And I was like, I don't know that I am a Republican. Maybe I'm a libertarian. So I looked into libertarianism and I'm like,
You were like, I like roads.
I like not being a psychopath.
Yes.
If you've talked to a libertarian, you know what I mean. But go ahead, Kevin.
Yes.
So pretty much that. So, and my now ex-wife is a devout Democrat. So I was like, oh, I must be a fucking Democrat because what else is left? And then I studied that a little bit and I was like, I don't know if I'm that either. So I became politically independent, and have been to this day, ever since. But shortly thereafter, both my ex-wife and I were like, we have concerns about race in the church, about women in the church, about sexual identity in the church, about even just fucking like relating to the human experience and history in the church, whether it be like science, evolution, things like that, or like, do we really think a man fucking took two of every fucking beast on the earth and put it on a ship and like the whole world was killed other than the things on that ship? So anyway, we're kind of like mentally challenged, right? Like we're working on these things, like, but meanwhile, we're still very faithful, very like involved in the church. It's the only thing, both of us raised in the church, like it's the only thing we've ever known in terms of our spiritual life. We come to, I don't remember what the year is. I believe it's shortly before what you all were talking about, the policy.
2015.
But there is a man named John DeLynn and there's a woman named Kate Kelly, and they are both active members of the church who are questioning some of the things within the church.
Is John DeLynn still active?
He's excommunicated. So that's part of my story.
No, he had his membership revoked or withdrawn. That's a new term. Membership withdrawn.
Of course.
Let the kinder, gentler version of excommunication.
At a membership council.
Yes.
Which was fairly done. No unfairness at all.
No, of course not. And shout out to Natasha, by the way, if she's listening.
Absolutely.
But,
Thank you for all you
anyway,
do,
yeah. Sex is cool. Anyway, so so the summer comes, there's the summertime, and they both get excommunicated, and we're both devastated, like go to work in the morning, barely make it through the day, come home, barely cobble together some sort of dinner or order pizza or whatever for the children that we have at the time, and then literally like go lay in bed and be depressed, like both of us.
Oh.
Like just, it was like a month to 2 months of just like heartache and depression, because going back to what we talked about, we classified both of ourselves in the same boat as these two people. And it's not that, I mean, both of these people were like more high profile, but we saw ourselves reflected in them. If you can see their image in your countenance,
Hold it up.
You know that song. So at that point, we kind of started to diverge from each other's paths. We were very much on a parallel path at that point. And I happened to be like, I'm distancing myself slowly but surely from this organization. And she was like, okay, I'm going to be all in. And, you know, can I falter? No, it could have easily, if I would have had to guess a year before this happened, I would have thought it would have been the other way around, to be honest with you. But then, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to get into too many personal details. Eventually we divorced, and like the church wasn't the only part of that, but certainly it played a portion of what put a wedge in our relationship. So but I continued to go to church even after the John Boleyn and Kate Kelly thing.
I did too.
I read a book maybe a year later, I would say, something like that. I was just reading a book one night. I was working kind of a late shift, and everyone would be asleep, and I wouldn't want to turn the TV on and wake people up or whatever. So I'd read, which was great. Actually, it's literally right here on the shelf next
Hold
to
it
me.
up.
I've held on to it for these years because it means a lot to me, actually. It's just called The History of the World by Andrew Marr.
Okay.
And I picked it up. It's a British book, a British author, when I was living in London. So I'm reading one night, and I'm reading about the history of the world, right? Like, and it's kind of prehistory, early history. It's talking about gods with an S on the end, and religions, and like from a historical perspective, kind of why they were created and why they started this movement of religions and gods and things like that. And it's like literally a light switch was flipped. And I was like, oh, I now know why God hasn't spoken to me. I don't think he's real. I don't think the version of God that's been taught to me all these years is real, and all the rules and obligations and commitments and things that I've made to this person now seemingly aren't important or don't matter as much anymore, because I don't even think the person that I made them with is real anymore. And so I still couldn't say it was a quick spiral, but it was a quicker spiral where both my marriage, unfortunately, and my membership in the church became less important to me, which is sad to say, especially on the marriage side of it. But I just couldn't see a way forward anymore. Meanwhile, at the time, I'm working for the LDS Church at the Missionary Training Center, and
I can relate to that. I was teaching at BYU. I can relate to that.
Yeah, and so it's a little. I mean, it's a little scary, to be honest with you, when like your financial resources for both you and your spouse at the time are tied to a job that's tied to your membership in the church.
Well, what's so crazy is like every summer for whatever reason, a whole bunch of people that went to BYU come out. Like they come out of the
Because
closet.
they graduate and they get their certificate.
Yep.
And then they,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's scary for a lot of people.
So it is, and I can completely relate to that. And you know,
And for some people, their pension is even tied to it. Like you
Yeah.
can't
mine is
be
my
yourself.
small pension that I had is no more.
Yeah. Your
but
your ability to live your truth is contingent on, okay, do you want to lose your
Toe
pension,
line,
your
yeah.
benefits, or do you want to be yourself?
you want to be
it's
true to
fucked up.
yourself. Yeah.
It's fucked up.
So I'm finishing off the story here. And it does tie back to all of your story. So I'm sitting in a general conference of the LDS Church, the twice a year meeting that they have for everyone. No, sorry. It's the week before that. It's the Sunday before that. I'm in sacrament meeting and I get a message from my wife at the time who says, "Why are you here?" I'm like, "We came to church together. What the fuck are you talking about?" Like, and she's like, "No, why are you here? You seem so angry." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "You're making faces like every time someone says something." And then I realized she's absolutely right. Like, like when you're so hungry or you're so tired, like everything just bugs you. Everything just,
Yeah.
I was mentally just exhausted, mentally hungry for something that meant something to me. So she said, "Why don't you just leave?" So I did. So I walked out the building. I went for a walk for a couple hours. We talked later that night, and she was like, "Why don't you take a break for a month?" Because up until like literally up until this week, I'm there every week. I'm serving. I'm doing whatever they ask of me. I'm paying the fees. I'm, doing all the things. And I said, "I think that's a good idea." So the following week was general conference week. And she's like, "Oh, we don't even have to watch general conference. It's fine." Like, and literally by like 1 week later, that Sunday evening, I let her know, like, I'm not coming back.
That's interesting. For me,
don't
it was, I remember being asked the same question. Hey, or not even asked the same question, but along the same lines. You don't have to be here. If you seem uncomfortable, because I would go and just have like panic attacks and just rock back and forth in the pew because I was struggling so much. And my wife at the time was like, "You don't have to be here." But at the same time, I didn't want to play into the stereotype, which admittedly is part of the Mormon church, that Black people are unreliable, unfaithful, not hardworking, all this stuff. And if I stopped going all of a sudden, I was going to be that thing, that person, that caricature of Blackness for them. And I was like, nope, I don't want to do that. That's not what I'm going to do. If I'm going to do it, it's on my own terms. And it's not going to play into your narrative. So
I think a lot of people that leave the church have kind of a similar experience, because like I remember the first time like I told my parents like, "Oh no, I'm not going to church this week." Like it's both like a really like terrifying, like you're telling somebody that like you're not, I don't even know how to describe it.
It's like you're dying essentially, because then you're lost spiritually, right, to them for eternity.
Yes.
Because the church teaches that if you're righteous, your whole family will be together forever and ever and ever.
Yes.
Ever. And so that tells your mother, your poor mother, that she will no longer have you for eternity, and breaking
also,
her heart.
You also know that your poor mother is going to withhold herself from food every month in your name, and she's going to pay even more money to the church in your name, because they're terrified that if they don't do those things that are literally just self-serving to the Mormon church, then they're going to lose you forever.
And those are all tools of religions, or of
cults.
Spencer, how do you put it? High demand religions.
High demand religions, yes.
High demand religions.
Cults.
where they employ these like cognitive tools to try to force people to go to church. Like they make people judge themselves and make people feel guilty using their own logic to get them to go to church and to believe in the religion. And to me, when I left, it was like really, I know some people go through a lot of ex-Mormons, at least that I've seen online in discussions. They go through like this period of like, I don't even know how to describe it, like where they feel like they're no longer, I don't know how to describe it. Let me describe how I felt, where I felt free. Like to me, it felt freeing. Like it felt like the sins, like the fear and guilt of committing sins was no longer part of something that the church could define.
Right.
It was, for me, it was a freeing feeling where I could be like, no, I'm not going to church anymore, but I don't feel like a bad person. I feel like the sins that the church defines, I don't feel like those are sins.
Yeah.
But you know what? I will feel like I have sinned when I do something that goes against my own morality.
Exactly.
But the transition from the Mormon or Christian morality to your own self-defined and like self-identified morality, that transition is really difficult.
It's a big deal. Yeah, for sure. Because it's all the responsibility is now on you instead of God, right? And taking on that responsibility is a big feeling. I think we should definitely have an episode that talks about
we should.
And you craft your own morality and decide what's
exactly
what is right, what is wrong, what's up, what's down. That's for you to decide.
I would absolutely love to have maybe next week or the week after or something, a discussion on morality, because like I felt
mojitos and morality.
Cream liqueur and morality.
Yes, Spencer. Morality to me, I won't get into it, but like I subscribe more to like the like Buddhist, like karmic.
And I definitely take a more relativistic.
That's a much better term. Yeah.
We all came into each other's lives in different ways. It's been beautiful. We're gonna wrap up here, but
yes,
certainly we welcome your questions. If you're like, hey, wait a minute, tell us more about this or that.
Oh, and tell us your stories. Tell us how you left the church. We would love to hear about it.
We would love to hear that.
I've had several people message me asking me how about because they knew I had left the church, but they didn't know that I was a member of the church originally, and they asked like how I exited the church. So please share your stories. I would love to hear them.
Absolutely. I think one of the great things about stories is it kind of normalizes the experience, because it is a normal thing to grow and develop and change your mind and, come into your own belief or point of view about reality in the world. Kevin's going straight for the run.
And if you need to send it in a private message and you don't feel like sending it in a public comment on one of our posts, feel free to do that. Yeah,
totally fine.
Send us a message. Yeah,
but you know what?
You're not alone.
You know what? Subscribe.
I was gonna say, speaking of posts, you can find us on YouTube. Just search for Thirst Impressions. Hopefully you'll see us pop up with a beautiful blue thumbnail. On Instagram at Thirst Impressions Podcast, I believe. And let's see, where else? Thirst Impressions Show. And of course the Twitter at ThirstPod.
The Zuck space.
Oh yeah, Zuck space. Thirst Impressions Podcast on Facebook. Absolutely.
Yes. And we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks everyone. Love you all.
Cheers. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Belinda, that pineapple was amazing. How did that happen?
I know. When Spencer said that, I was like, oh.
The Holy Spirit guides.
Long and thick down to the root.
Oh my God. We were at a friend's house last night, and what was said? And the kid said, oh, I have a piece of meat you need to salt. The little 10-year-old kid. I remember my first dirty joke that I heard in elementary school, and I repeated it to my little sister. So this girl went on this date with a guy. He had a date coming up, and he didn't have a tie to wear on their date. Obviously you have to wear a tie on a date. And so, but he had a really long penis. And so he took his penis and he tied it around his neck in a bow. And then they went to the movies. And she was feeling flirty during the movie. And she started playing with his tie. And then there was an announcement over the loudspeaker that said...
And then his tie got hard and he killed himself.
No, even better. The loudspeaker... On the loudspeaker, it choked him out. No, somebody came on the loudspeaker and said, "Well, the people on the front row, please stop throwing ice cream at the screen."